Welcome back to IGN Live at E3 2019. The Avengers have almost 60 years worth of comic book appearances, and over the last decade, they've assembled into one of the biggest movie franchises in history. And now, Earth's mightiest heroes are getting their own proper video game. Here to talk about Marvel's Avengers, please welcome Bill Rosemann from Marvel Games and Sean Escayg from Crystal Dynamics, plus IGN's Jonathan Dornbush. Gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the IGN stage.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah. Congrats on the big reveal of the game last night.
How cool was it? How cool was it? Awesome. To finally unleash Marvel's Avengers upon the world.
Yeah. And the fans were just...
The energy was crazy.
Yeah.
There's like what we prepared to say, but then when you walk out and they start screaming, you know, it kind of goes out the window.
Things a little bit.
Yeah.
So you must be excited to finally be able to talk about Avengers. Let's do just that. Jonathan, I know you're a big Avengers fan.
Yes, absolutely. I think the big thing I want to talk about first, because we got a lot of questions about it when it was shown. What can you tell us about in the trailers that we saw? Was a hint of what the gameplay is? Was that actual gameplay? Was it cinematic? Can you tell us sort of what we saw there?
Yeah, a lot of it. You know, it's funny seeing the comments like, "Oh, we need to see more gameplay."
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of gameplay in there, and a lot of people don't realize it. That is a perspective of Hulk that you do play. Right. That is the Thor perspective as well. Right. So a lot of it is gameplay, like Widow on Taskmaster. That's gameplay, right? So there is a mixed match of gameplay and cine in there, and I think people will be surprised when they realize that you are going to play each character, you are going to feel like each character, and it's going to be varied. It's not the same mechanics, it's not the same tone, not the same experience.
I wanted to ask, what went into making each character feel unique? Because for me, at least, like in those scenes, I get a little bit of a different sense of what each character is going to be like. The way you see Hulk, like speeding up and getting really into that run. The way you see Cap in the close quarters combat.
I mean, it all started with I'm glad you said that because it all began with conversations, and we talked about who they were as people, and how were they trained, and how do they personally want to use their powers. Who has more control, who doesn't. And so we just really thought about, well, Captain America, his military style training was probably different from Black Widow. She also kind of has a military background, but it's more tactical, coming from the Red Room. So they should fight differently from Hulk, obviously, and Thor. Here's two physical people, but Thor has the hammer and is used to fighting that way, where Hulk is more the monster. So we really thought about how combat equals character.
Was it difficult to balance making sure each character was fun to play in its own right? Because obviously some people may gravitate toward one. They may try out every character and get a feel. Like, how do you make sure they're all balanced to be fun?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is the challenge of the game, right? Like, how do these characters play? How do they feel on the stick? Do I feel powerful as the Hulk? Can I leap? Can I smash? Right? Iron Man. Having that reactor, does it feel strong again, powerful? How does it fly? How does he fly, right? Like, bringing to life these characters is still an ongoing challenge for the studio. But we're really close. We're really there. We're pretty excited about what you will feel like.
Yeah.
And we want everybody to be always deciding who is my favorite one to play. And I think when you see the demo today, you'll watch it and you're like, okay, that's gonna be my one. Oh wait, Hulk's. Oh wait. Widow is really cool. So we want each individual one to be awesome, and the player to really be kind of torn, who's my favorite, and then find their Avenger, or maybe always want to have that variety and play them all.
Well, so how does it work? Do you pick an Avenger at the beginning, and then you're locked into that character throughout the story, or can you pick the right hero for the mission that you're currently playing?
It's a great question. The story, there is a narrative, there is a linear story, if you will. And you will be set up in the world as you go through and progress with that story and with those characters to tell that particular part of the story. You will unlock certain heroes, and at that point, you can go off and play that particular hero. So there is some gating when it comes to keeping the narrative and pushing the narrative further as it pertains to the single player.
Interesting.
But there is definitely your choice of hero, your choice of what mission you want to do, how you level up that hero, how you play that hero, and what you do with that hero is all the player's choice.
Interesting.
Obviously, we see some helicarriers in the trailer. Is that sort of what's going to be your hub? Can you talk about that at all? Like, sort of where you'll be based?
So two things. So we wanted to begin, as you said earlier, Avengers have been in 60 years of comic books, and then through the film, and people are pretty familiar with it. But here, at Marvel Games, when we work with our partners, we want to say, well, what's your version of the Avengers? So we like to mix it up. So as people saw in the trailer, we begin on the West Coast. You're used to seeing Avengers on the East Coast. Boom, we're on the West Coast, a nod to the old West Coast Avengers comic back in the 80s. And it begins on A-Day when you're opening up this compound, and there is a helicarrier, and usually S.H.I.E.L.D. always has the helicarriers. And they fly, and Avengers have their Quinjets, and they're usually kind of separate. We decided, what if we have a partnership? And we're unveiling at A-Day, the Avengers are teaming with S.H.I.E.L.D., and S.H.I.E.L.D. is helping to build and staff this compound. And there is an Avengers-themed helicarrier that will be the Avengers' own, and they will have quarters on there. And they will be able to live on the helicarrier. But as you saw in the trailer, tragedy strikes. Things go wrong. And that helicarrier, which we're calling the Chimera, plunges tragically into the bay.
And those tensions, right, between S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers will be heightened, right, because of that.
Well, I did want to talk about the characters and the characterization, because obviously we've been talking a lot about, being able to see them as on their own, but as a team as well, and you revealed the voice casts for this group. Can you tell me a little bit about what went into wanting to capture a new form of these iconic characters?
Yeah, I mean, the cast plays, obviously, one of the most important roles in portraying and bringing to life these great characters. So we spared no expense at that. We looked for the best talent, the top talent, and it was a rigorous process, going back and forth. But I mean, the choices were pretty clear once we got to, the core, and we're like, wow, this.
It was actually like, it's like assembling the Avengers.
It was.
It's an all-star cast that you've brought together.
Yeah, and it's awesome to work with them, and they themselves are fans. They're huge fans, right? Like, they were calling up, like, hey, are we doing this? When are we doing this, right? And then to see what they, how they take the words on the page and make these characters real and bring them to life and bring the conflict to life was just phenomenal to watch.
And talking about making the characters unique, our goal is to always, with this, for the fans to look at the characters and say, oh, the Avengers, they're instantly recognizable. I know who they are, but they're kind of unique to this game as well. Yeah. We really worked on what they look like, and spent a long time talking about their uniforms, and tried to make them again. So you see them, you're like, that's Captain America, but I've never seen Captain America's uniform quite like that.
Yeah.
Or Thor's armor. Wow, they're really leaning into the Viking aspect of it. So that was going, and then that extends to the portrayals.
Yeah.
I mean, they're thinking about it, and they're making it. It's their version of the Avengers. And
it also ties in with this particular story and how this is like why those choices are made, also interwoven into the story itself.
I loved seeing the cast together and getting a sense of obviously that camaraderie. Of course, a lot of them have worked together before, but seeing this all brought together. Was the process for recording and everything, just for those who may not know, was that just voice acting? Were they doing full mocap? Like, what was the recording process?
Full mocap performances.
Okay.
It's like watching theater. These guys, they come on the set, we build the set, and they do their thing. The chemistry is real, it is live, and we just sit down and watch and capture it all. It's great.
Awesome.
So are you thinking of this as primarily a multiplayer game, hoping that players will team up with their friends and cooperate? And then how also are you handling the single player for people who want to play by themselves?
Well, it's sort of a new beast, if you will, right? Because it's neither quite single player nor multiplayer, right? It's sort of a hybrid, especially at least the campaign is sort of a hybrid, because you can linearly go through the game.
Gotcha.
You can at some point get the setup and go straight to the multiplayer, or you can go through the game at certain checkpoints, finish, or if you're a completionist, do all your missions, level up your favorite character, get him ready for the next stage. So it all depends on how the player wants to play this game. And that's part of what the beauty of having the Avengers as a franchise, and just the concept of the Avengers allows for this kind of game to exist, right? Because you level up, you play with your friend, you can continue on your own if you love a particular character, and then get bits and, I guess, different experiences depending on how you play this game, which is awesome.
And I want to stress how smart and thoughtful and dramatic and funny and awesome the single-player story is. We really wanted to approach this as its own original story. It's not solely based on the comics. We're not trying to fit it in between the movies. It's not MCU based. It's not. It's inspired by comics, but it's everything together. We've looked at cartoons. We've looked at T-shirts. We looked at statues. We looked at the films. We looked at the comics. We looked at everything and blended it all together and said, let's tell our own original story that players can only get in this game.
And you're only seeing a window of it.
Sure.
Trust me, you're only seeing a window of it.
Yeah.
It deepens.
Sure. Can Spider-Man appear in this game?
Well, we are just focusing on the core Avengers.
Core Avengers.
Very diplomatic. I appreciate that.
Yes, we are.
Straight to the point.
But obviously there was a little bit of the tease at the end of how this universe will go on, and there was mention of looking forward for new
because
content.
there were certain characters that the audience was yelling out for, which we love. We love the passion, and so I just want to say, hey, there will definitely be more characters coming, more regions. We have gone through the vaults and wrote list after list after list of all of our favorite Avengers. We've gone deep. We've gone through the back issues. It's not just the usual suspects. If they're in one or two issues, I'm like, I love that character. I think you guys can make an awesome version of that character. So, everyone asking for certain characters, stay tuned, true believers.
What about the villains that you guys are planning? Do you create your own villains, or will they be recognizable?
Oh, definitely recognizable. All our villains. Yeah.
I mean, as you saw in the trailer, you saw Taskmaster.
Yes.
AKA Tony Masters with the photoreflexive reflexes. He's so cool because he sees you do a move, he can replicate it. So that's a unique challenge for the Avengers. And then you saw Hulk grappling with the Abomination. So again, we want to deliver the villains you would want to see, that you would expect to see in an Avengers story, but again, put our spin on it. And there will be more to come.
Well, thank you so much for coming by the IGN stage. Avengers is looking very cool. We're very excited to check out more of the game this week.
Yes.
Awesome.
Have a great,
Thank you guys.
have a great rest of the
Appreciate
show.
it. Thanks for your time.